I'm sorry for the confusion this morning. Some people did tell me that they weren't coming, but maybe I didn't make the notes correctly. There are 27 of us, so it's a good number. You remember our driver Mihalis, and he'll be taking us to Left Terrace. We'll then be taking the tour.
This tour, ladies and gentlemen, it is quite relaxing and interesting. We have 2 different sites to visit. It is actually sightseeing panoramic. Most of the information will be given from inside the bus. And when we go to the places, 1 hour in each destination, you will enjoy, you take photos, relax, and also at the same time, I have to tell you that you have no entrance fee to pay. You know how generous I am. I have to do the whole thing for you. By the way, the first place that we are going to go, it is very romantic, very exotic, very interesting. It is the beautiful spa center of Calitea. And the second one, it is the Acropolis of Rhodes. I remind you, on the way we're going to Leros. For those who were with us in Leros, actually we said that we have another one Acropolis to visit, which is the largest of all around Greece, and that is the Acropolis of the city of Rhodes. By the way, that Acropolis, ladies and gentlemen, to be honest with you, all of you are going to climb over the top with a bus. We have more or less around 300 to 400 weddings per summer in this place, but most of those, believing it or not, are also from UK. Actually, whenever I was coming with Saga in the afternoon, I was hitting always in 1 or even 2 weddings over there in Calitea. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you that it is beautiful beyond whatever I try to tell you. I cannot describe the beauty of that place with my words. Have a look on your left. This is the place. These are the buildings. They are very well camouflaged and disguised among the rocks, but when we go in there, you can explore it. 2 things I want you to remember. We have clearly 1 hour there. I'm not going to delay you even a minute. That's why I gave you all the information inside the bus. We walk only together until the entrance, just to show you the recommended path and then enjoy. And second, ladies and gentlemen, very practically listen to me and pay attention to that. Before we go, use the toilets, please. The reason why, the second destination we have in the Acropolis, they do excavations and they made a damage a couple of weeks ago and they cannot use any longer the toilets over there. So for that reason, because we have no toilets in the Acropolis, make sure to use them here before we go. Is that alright? Remember that. According to my watch, it is almost 20 minutes to 10, am I right?
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, 11:15, back to the bus. 10:45. Is that okay? Alright, we are all down. Let's walk this way, please. Beautiful, isn't it? All ready. The recommended path is the one on your right.
On the right.
The recommended path is the one on your right, please.
Okay, thank you.
The recommended path, the one on your right.
Where is he? they do check the state of the lady in there. The reception. Yeah, so they do. Yeah, so.
So it's part of the housekeeping routine.
Is there? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I was thinking, well, cleaning was probably.
Yeah, so no, we didn't hear.
Thanks, Al.
So they didn't bring up late. And in bag.
Bene, sì. Yeah. No, it's very cool. You know,
extremely beautiful with the lights and the palm trees and everything. I mean, you can come and enjoy it the whole day. To be honest with you, I was quite happy. 2002 they were sending emails to everybody working in tourism asking suggestions what they should do with this place. I thought that I'm somebody to send me an email, huh? So I told them I would like to see that place like it used to be before, like a spa center, you know. And I would like also to add more young ladies, tall, blonde, giving massage the whole day. So I can organize a full day trip for the men of Saga. Huh? They never reply me back. Anyway, did you go to the museum? Did you see the photos?
yeah.
Did you see the photos of the movies, some of them?
Yeah.
I have to tell you, there was an incident about 12 years ago. By that time, just around the corner over there, we had the stay program of Saga in that hotel. And among the guests, I had the honor and the privilege somehow to meet the main cameraman of the movie The Guns of Navarone. He was our guest. He stayed for 1 week. Honestly speaking, he was telling us stories every day because they spent 6 months to shoot the movie here. It was pretty interesting. We learned a lot of things about that movie and a lot of gossip stories. Quite embarrassing for me. For 1 week everybody was listening to his stories, not mine, but anyway, that's another story. He said something about Calitea. In the movie we saw the heroes being on board on a fishing boat. And then we saw a German boat approaching. And the German boat and the fishing boat, they had the combat and they were killing each other, actually, the heroes. And finally, we see a big explosion of the German boat. By the way, in the movie, the set, he said, that boat that we see as a German boat, it was given to them from the Greek Navy for the necessities of the movie. But the person who did that fake explosion, it was pretty much inexperienced. And by the end of the explosion, they realized that there was a small hole at the bottom of the boat, and they were just about to lose it. And it was a big scandal at that time with the Greek government. But anyway, Calitea is a very interesting place, but we go to the second destination now, which is actually very interesting as well, different perspective. You know already what is the meaning of the word Acropolis from what we've said. I remind you, the edge of a city. But that Acropolis that we are going to go, it is quite exceptional. First of all, in some old maps or books, you might see it with a different name. They call it as the Monte Smith Hill. And beside, you lose the whole of the echo feeling, and then you really doubt if everybody can hear you. Why I'm telling you this? Because I want you to try this today. You are going to do this sound testing. You are going to see the metallic pin, huh? Stand above that and talk. You don't need to say something loudly. Say something as one word, even a Shakespearean phrase. To beer or not to beer. And then you move one step left or one step right. Repeat your phrase. No echo. By the way, I see some of you have hats with flat rounds. Remove them, because sometimes that disturbs the echo to turn back to your ears. But even if you do that and still you don't find the effect, that is a very good indication. When you turn back home, you have to visit the doctor. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, the largest is the theater, the largest is the echo. I remember when I was in the university and they took us to Epidavros, which is 5 times larger than the one that we will see. You know what the professor did for us? He didn't talk. He put us all to stand at the top, at the highest point. He took a metallic coin from his pocket and he threw it in the center. The metallic pin, it was heard everywhere. Just like that. And it is very, very interesting experience. By the way, we started already driving through the Acropolis. Have a look on your left, there are ruins of the walls going all around. And by the way, try to recreate them with your imagination. All of that, it was surrounded by walls. We are exactly 112 meters above the level of the sea. So you can understand that it was very hard for the enemy to attack from that side. All of the attacks were happening from the other side. And also, ladies and gentlemen, all of that hill, all of that mountain was surrounded by walls. And to be honest with you, it was the largest. Opposite, you see the green mountain over there? That was the other Acropolis of the area of Leros, where you have your hotel. By the way, tomorrow we will go there. I will explain you later on. This is the mountain of Leros. It's a beautiful place. And here we will turn to see the temple. We are going to see the temple of Apollo, the only one that partly stands. I have to tell you that it was made during the 1st century before Christ. It was Doric style, made out of sandstone, the main material that we have here. Medium-sized temple. I mean, at that time it was supported by 32 pillars, and today you can only see here on your right 3.5 pillars still standing. And actually it was following the direction of the movement of the sun from the east to the west. But of course, ladies and gentlemen, the scaffoldings. Do you know why? The last restoration happened in the 30s, before the Second World War, by the Italians. The Italians, following the methods of restoration of those days, they did 2 terrible mistakes. Number 1, they used concrete, cement and metallic iron bars to support the pillars from inside. Of course, as I told you in Lindos, you realize, next to the sea, after so many years, the metallic iron bars were under heavy rust. But second, they Καλημέρα, George, τι κάνεις?
Γεια σου, Πέφτη. Είσαι καλά?
Καλημέρα, δώστε το. Right, ladies and gentlemen.
No, that'd be too much. Well, we all did.
You want it?
No jogging there, I think. Carry the name from Leros.
There is everywhere.
If you do a perfect one, I've not seen it before, but we did see that.
Exactly, this is how it goes. Eleftheria is meaning freedom. Eleftherios is my original name, meaning the free person, group. We are in the heart of the archaeological site, and we have in front of us the stadium. Very briefly, the stadiums until the 4th century before Christ used to be rectangulars. Later on they take the form that you see here, and by the way, that was also closed, which means that the Romans later on they open it. I have to tell you that a lot of people confused the idea of the stadium to the Roman arenas. No, the Roman arenas were much more larger, longer, and they were mostly for different events, had nothing to do with what I told you. It was a way to control politically the audience in a big city to avoid rebellions. Because in the Roman arenas you were giving bloody events and they were giving bread. The same thing they do today, by the way. With all these Mundial and big events and footballs, for 1 month everybody is watching TV and nobody pays attention what the governments do in the parliament. More or less.
Yeah, sounds like England.
Everywhere. Everywhere, not only England, everywhere. By the way, let us see what we have here. Ladies and gentlemen, the longest stadium of ancient Greece, but not the largest in capacity. 113 the length of the meters of that. Actually, it was all covered under the dirt. The Italians excavated and they restored it. By the way, the only original part, it is the one at the bottom, where you see the petal over there. And it is pretty much restored, left and right. And I have to tell you that it is quite luxurious for those days. Do you know why? Because in the stadium of Olympia, where the Olympics were happening, the spectators had to stand. Here, they were sitting. And not only that, if you look very carefully by the right side, we have also the VIP seats on the front. All right? Now, the spectators, they estimate, the archaeologists, could reach up to 28,000. To be honest with you, we still use it today. We had events like 2004, when we had the Olympic flame before the Olympic Games in Athens. It was full with people and we organized special tours that evening. I have seen it also full in the opening ceremony of the Island Games, and I have seen it full sometimes in the summers. They do at night concerts here. I just want to tell you one thing. I can hardly estimate that we have more than 8,000 or 9,000 people. Why they say 28,000? Two reasons. Either it was much more larger than the restoration of the Italians. As you can see, the petal is going higher. Or at that time the people were more skinny than what we are today. Both probably. And we go further beyond that way and we see some ruins, and all of that has been excavated. And by the way, that was the ruins of the Gymnasium. Try to imagine it as a huge rectangular building with a large atrium inside where the athletes were training themselves. And then we go further beyond, and we have reports of a huge theater that doesn't exist anymore. Very few fragments of that. And a lot of people, they come to me and they ask me, Lefty, why do we have such a large destruction in the ancient world? Excuse me.
I'm not from the tour, but can I have a question?
Yes, please.
What's the purpose of the tunnel in the wall? Is it original or
No.
it was dig?
Well, actually it is restored, yeah.
Oh,
It's just to prevent, yes.
oh, okay, thank you.
However, I have to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that the reason why we have such a large destruction, it is because actually, believing it or not, it is not nature, it is not earthquakes, it is not more than the humans. Most of the destruction in the ancient world happens because of the humans, and especially the fanatics. We will end up to that. But before ISIS, there were a lot more. The Romans did a lot of destruction. The early fanatic Christians did a lot of destruction. I remind you what I said in the bus. This emperor, Theodosius I, he wanted, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, to do the whole of the empire Christians by force. He slaughtered more than 1.5 million in the peninsula of Greece that they denied to become Christians. And he slaughtered almost 2 million in the peninsula of Italy. I am Christian by myself, but I have to tell you the truth. This is what was happening. And imagine, there are a lot of fanatics that they come to places like that, and they were no longer in use. And as the lady asked me quite rightly before we enter, they were finding these beautiful buildings with the stones well shaped, and they were ripping them off and take them just to use them for their own houses and their own buildings. How many times, by the way, you go to a museum and you see the statues with broken noses or with broken necks because they were considering them as idols? And how easy you can destroy an idol? By pushing it. And by the time the statue falls, the first thing that touches down on the ground, it is the nose that breaks, or the neck, that it is the weakest part. And then we come to the rest. The Arabs, when firstly they started spreading the new religion, the Muslims actually, they did the same thing. And then the Crusaders, by melting a lot of stones, all right, to make asbestos. Or the First and the Second World War, or the ISIS. 2,500 years and the people never learned. They still do the same. And then we come over there. We have ruins of the wrestling house, ruins of donations of statues with bases and whatever. That's why you can see the footprints. But also, ladies and gentlemen, you will see ruins of a basilica. There was, during the 6th century, a Byzantine basilica of San Stefano somewhere around here, and they found some fragments over there. And then we go to that location where the gentleman asked what it was. That was the library where they were keeping the scrolls and all the dramatic plays. Of course, it is fully restored by the Italians, and they closed it actually, because the soil is just about to collapse at the top of the roof, and there is a cave inside that they didn't want anyone to be lost. And then we go here to the Odeon, a small theater. That was built originally by the Romans 1st century, and it was built actually, ladies and gentlemen, that's why they destroyed the opening of the stadium. They reformed it. It was made out of limestone. You see a few fragments and a couple of seats at the bottom, made out of grey. That was the original material. But the Italians here, they have used marble. Marble is not a native material. That's why, to me, it looks as a stamp in an envelope. But still, they have respected the acoustics. And this is what I told you in the bus. You go down in the center of the plateau. You will see down the metallic pin. Stand above that, say a word, you will hear the echo. Then one step aside, repeat the same word, no echo. This is really amazing. And the last thing before I set you free, opposite, under the road, where we see two people walking in a room under the road. This is a beautiful photographic museum. I would like you to have a look at that. You will see photos of the whole of the place taken by helicopter. You will see photos of the time of the excavation of the Italians using their fascistic costumes. And you will see photos of the ancient games. How? Well, this is it. It took you some time, but here you are.
Time-lapse photography.
Well,
That's a good poet.
Yeah.
Think about the Daily Express. Did you hear it?
We did.
What's
I went
the,
behind you.
what's the next thing?
One word.
Janus.
Från Silja, så förbi just standard. Ja. We do need a pause.
That's where Jim comes from. So who will interview?
I'm not pointing your way.